Hello everybody and welcome to the latest Thursday Thinks. My name is Marianne and I am the creator of Naturally Willa, which is at the moment a source of information to help you to heal your horse, mind, body and soul naturally. Now, excuse me, today my nose is very red, my allergies have started, so I am a little bit sneezy and gross. But hello everybody, and we're doing something a little bit different today in the fact that I am also on Instagram Live. So if you see me on Instagram for the first time, hi. If you're on the YouTube, hi. If you're on Facebook, hello. We're going across several platforms today just to see what's going to happen. To those of you who haven't been here before, my Thursday Thinks are where I talk about things that have come up on my mind while I've gone through my weekly routine, or something that has happened, or somebody has said something that just twigs me and like, oh, maybe I should talk about that. So it's a little bit of something to discuss and go through that might not be enough for a YouTube video, or perhaps it is and I'll make something later. I don't know. Might be an inspiration going forward. Always, though, let me know if there's any topics that you want to talk about. If there are any YouTube videos you want me to make, I'm happy to add anything that you like. Obviously, I know what I know, and some things might be second nature to me, but other times it might be that I can pick things up and go, oh, somebody needs to know this, somebody needs to know that. But if you let me know, I can give it to you. So if you're watching live, say hello. Leave me a comment and let me know how you're enjoying this. If you're watching on replay, put hashtag replay and let me know so that I can see what you're enjoying and that you care enough to watch it back. So today is all about horse weights. Now, this time of year, it's the start of spring. The horses, the majority of standard horses, are going onto the fields, or they've been on the fields and the grass is starting to come through, and people are starting to worry about weight. Obviously, over the winter months, people are focused more on keeping the weight on their horse. And when spring hits, it's a case of quick get the weight off the horse so that we can do all these events, so that we can do this and that, so it's health and benefit. You know, there's so many occasions where weight for the horse is an issue. But what do you do? Do you shovel food into your horse? Do you do bucket feed after bucket feed? Or is your horse such a good doer that you're just like, oh no, I can't feed it anymore, it can have a tiny patch of grass and I won't feed it any extra and that'll just have to do. Now, when I took on my Blue Cross my four Blue Cross ponies, the Blue Cross gave me a chart of like what you should be able to see, what you shouldn't be able to see. So like the crest of the neck, how thick is it, how wobbly is it, the ribs, can you see them, can you not, the hip bones and things like that. So it gives you a general idea, but it bugged me slightly because it doesn't go across the breeds. Now, if you've got something daintier like a thoroughbred, you expect it to be just that little bit skinnier. You know, you expect it to be a lot more sleek, lined, and just generally sleek and beautiful. But if you've got something like a cob or something really, really chunky, like your Suffolk Punches or your Clydesdales or your Shires, something that's really beefy, I'm not entirely sure that chart applies. And I know that Blue Cross can't give breed, because then you've got the factor that each horse is different, just like every person is different. You know, I'm quite slenderly built, but some of my family members have bigger bones. It doesn't mean that they're chunky. It just means that they're built differently. They carry themselves differently. They put muscle on in places, natural muscle that doesn't require any work, or they have trouble putting on muscle or weight in any particular areas, which means they look a bit skinnier. And it makes me think that the same is true for horses. And you've got them going through different ages as well. I mean, you've got your youngsters, and if you're anything like my little pagan, she goes from being skinny and lanky and looking a bit, oh, are you okay, girl? You're looking a bit ropey, because she's just gone through a growth spurt, to then looking really chunky and a bit juicy, and you're just a bit, okay, you've got a bit of weight on. But the following week, she then goes through another growth spurt, so she utilises what she's stored. So I'm not entirely convinced that horse weights are as much of an issue as people seem to make out. Now, it's not to say that people are lying over the fact that their horse is a little bit too fat or that their horse isn't a bit too skinny, but I think it's a lot more single horse specific. So you've also got what your horse is doing. Now, if it spends most of its day and nights in the stable doing jack diddle, then obviously it's not really going to have much to it, because it's not going to have much muscle, because it's got nowhere to go. It's got no way to build up that muscle, to utilise any of the muscle that it's got. So it mostly wastes away, except for perhaps when the person takes their horse out for a hack or something like that, which is probably the case mostly in winter time, because people do prefer to stable in the winter. Or is your horse out all the time, but it's got a square field and there's not much to eat, there's got not much enrichment. So there's things that I feel that we as people, as owners of horses, cause to our horses, whether it's stress because they're on their own, or they're not feeling understood, or they've been through something recently like an operation, or been faffed about with by somebody they don't know, like a new farrier or a vet, or there's several stresses that could happen, like maybe their next door field is being torn up for building work or something. So I think there's some mental aspect to it, as well as the fact that sometimes they just are bored. So if you're bored, like some of us have been during COVID, have got very little to do, so we've just sat there eating because it's something to do, and the fridge is just there, the cupboard is just there, oh, there's some chocky bickies, getting me now. So sometimes I think there's a little bit of that mental aspect of they're bored, so something to do is to eat. Now, when I was at the livery yard where the major was, part of the riding school, there was one pony there, and he was always put on practically a bare paddock. And I've always wondered why. And when I asked why, I was told it's because he puts on weight just from looking at grass. And even in that bare paddock, he would pull up the root systems of the grass to eat it, because that was the only thing that was there. But he was incredibly chunky. This is just really, really confusing for me. But if you think about it, if your body's in starvation mode, it will take whatever it can to store it, to keep it going for later. So to me, that says that you should, perhaps there's the thought that maybe we should be trickle feeding the horse to the good doers, the ones that people say they see a blade of grass and they just poof out. So maybe there's a different way of looking at it, rather than starvation, as it could be called, because they are still called starvation paddocks. Maybe there's different ways of looking at it, different aspects to think about, because if I didn't get a chance to eat much all day, and then you put in front of me a bowl of anything, I would wolf it down because I was that hungry. And it's the same principle I feel for the horses, because also at the same livery yard there was a horse that was stabled next to the major and his girlfriend, the grey lady at the time, who's called Humbug, and he was absolutely a gorgeous boy, but his owner would only give him a small hay net overnight. I was like, well, why do you do that? She says, oh, it's because if he has anything more, he'll eat it. Like, okay, it's hay, of course he's going to eat it, he's hungry. She says, no, because he'll take that hay net that he's got there and he'll eat it within 5 minutes. Like, okay, but he spends then the rest of the night hungry. That can't be good for his digestive system. So, but he's never had any issues with his weight, he always keeps it on a little bit. That can't be good for his nutrition. Now, obviously the body does function a lot on energy, calories and stuff like that, but to be actively healthy, it needs the minerals, the vitamins, the right amount of sugars, the proteins, carbohydrates, things like that, just as it is for us. So it made me think again about how perhaps some people do intermittent fast their horse to keep the weight down, or just generally don't feed enough without realising that the lack of the nutritional value may be detrimental and causing issues for the horse. So it's been a big rabbit warren that I've gone down over the years of trying to figure out what is best in the situation. So for me personally, since having the 5 that I've got now and having the characters I've got now, like Midnight, when she first arrived, every single hay net, I couldn't take down an empty net without putting a fresh one up first, because she had the mentality of there's going to be no food. If you take down that net which is empty, it still symbolises food, you're taking it away from me. So because she had that mentality, I was always leaving nets up for her. And I thought, you know what if I always make sure there's enough hay? What if I always make sure that there's plenty up? And while, okay, it did mean there was quite a lot of wastage to start off with, because obviously it rains, so it gets wet, which ruins the hay slightly. But she also ballooned out in weight. I mean, she was as heavy as the Major. Now, the Major is 15.2, quite a chunky warm blood for a warm blood. And she is a 13-1 cob. Now, she turned into quite a big tank, but I was just like, no, I need to get through to you mentally, because obviously she's got in this brain of hers that there's not going to be enough food, so she's just packing it in, she's packing it in. And I kept going, and I had a few comments from the vet and the barefoot trimmer and things like that going, she's a little bit chunky, I think you should be watching her weight, perhaps you shouldn't be feeding her as much. Like, no, I've got it, trust me, it's fine. And she got bigger and bigger. And then probably about last summer, the shift changes. She was no longer possessive of hay. She was no longer at a hay net constantly. She was going for wanders about. She was just standing, taking in the world and interacting with us a bit more. Now, obviously, in the meantime, we had been doing work to build her confidence with us and in herself. But the hay was always something that was hard for us to teach, that there's always going to be food there. But it seemed to work. And she has now got down to a very healthy level. Now, she's still a bit juicy in the odd places, but that might just be her. So we're just accepting that for the time being. Although it may go down even more over the next year, 2, whatever, as she continues to see that there's always enough food. So I tried that approach and it worked for me. Now, I know that not everybody has that ability. Some people need their horse to do things right there and then. Like, you've brought your horse to be a dressage horse, so you need to be a certain weight, so it's a certain amount of fitness. Or your horse needs to, I don't know, be a child's pony in a school, and it doesn't look very good if you're putting a child on an overweight horse. It could cause a few questions. But conversely, I have the Major. Now, the Major is 29 in a couple of weeks' time. Handsome man that he is. And I was always told at the livery yard that we were at, because he was a working livery, they had more involvement in his care as well. And I was always told, no, you can't feed him anymore. You can't feed him anymore, he'll get fat. And from more discovery, it was because they were concerned that if he got any chunkier, that people start asking questions. But I did realise that he was losing weight. Now, if you've seen the Meet the Major YouTube video, you've seen that he had ragwort poisoning. And it got to the point where he was practically a walking skeleton, and the owners of the livery yard were still trying to convince me that he was too fat. Now, I obviously was naive at the time, but it makes me think how much people influence you when it comes to your horse's weight, because everybody says your horse shouldn't be fat. In fact, I was told specifically, the vets have said that you should always have your horse slightly underweight, which never made sense to me, because if your horse has any issues, the first thing that goes is its weight, and if it's already slightly underweight, then it's not got much margin of error for you to see something's going wonky. So I initially was on the side of caution, went, nah, I'm going to feed you a bit more love, and then you can be just that little bit chunkier. And then we moved here, and he's also been on as much food as he likes, because I can control it, and I just like, you eat, buddy, you eat, you be what you want to be. And he has never looked better, because A, he always knows there's enough food, B, I've got him on such great nutrition because I make sure that he's got a rounded diet because of his age and his lack of teeth. And C, he's on a track system, so it encourages movement, which also means that he's got access to so much hedgerow and other places to go, things to focus on, things to think about, things to nose in, things to forage. So for me, I know it doesn't work for everybody, but having my lot on the track system is also great for them and their weight. The fact that they're constantly moving, I can put up hay nets at the furthest end of the track and make them come down to get it. I then put nets at the top end of the track, so they've got such a distance to go. Now, that's great for movement, which is awesome, great for my boy's arthritis, great for Midnight to work off a little bit of the food that she's just eaten. But there's also the mental stimulation. If they've got to go around the track, if they've got places to nose at, if they've got things to forage at, it means they're not getting bored, which means that they also have other things to fill in their day, fill in their life. So they're not eating out of boredom, eating out of necessity. And especially this time of year, with the hedgerows coming through and all the other plants that are starting to grow that have great nutritional value, great medicinal value as well. Check out the YouTube videos for those. My horse has been able to self-select whatever nutrients they need, been able to self-select what medications they need out of the medicinal plants and herbs that are also around the track system. And that seems to have created not only a healthy body, but a healthy mind, and that they've got places to go. They've got the ability to do natural behaviours, which I think most horses seem to lose when they're stood in a stable and they pick up the bad habits like the weaving and the crib biting and the wind sucking. So for me, it feels as though when it comes to your horse's body weight, we over control it. We over monitor it, we fiddle with it, we have our 2 pennies worth and just like, you should be this weight because that's the breed standard, or because you're looking a bit ribby, or you're looking a bit juicy. Juicy, you know what I mean? But if you think about it, in the wild, horses aren't fat, they aren't skinny, unless they're ill. Or just old. So if you trust your horse to manage itself and give it the facilities to do so, for covering the mind, the body, the soul, if you would, if you focus on those, they will balance themselves out. And that's what I'm finding and trusting with my herd, especially the youngsters who I know some of them have never known strife, especially Spring and Pagan. They've never known any real hunger, except for when I might have slightly missed it when it's like this changing weather and the winter coat's going and it's been a few blustery nights with a lot of rain. They've got a bit too cold and their systems made them a bit hungry. But it's never anything near what Midnight, the Major, and I feel Egypt, when he was younger, has experienced. But they're not overly fussed with food either. I mean, if you stood there with carrots, it'd be something different, but there's no wolfing down food because it's there. There's no real mental, I gotta have it now. And they don't store the food in the same way, which is really, really interesting for me. And I know that some people do make the odd comment of you need to be careful what they're eating. But if I ask them to look carefully at my horses, whether they're young ones, old ones, whatever, I say, is he overweight? Is she overweight? Is what you're looking at muscle or is it fat? And they start prodding about and they're like, actually, these youngsters are quite muscly. Movement on track. Actually, no, it's not fat because they're not overeating. They're just looking really, really healthy and looking great in the right places. Like, yeah, exactly. From a distance, they may look chunkier, but actually that's the build that they've got because I've mostly got cobs in my herd who are just that build. So, all things that I've been thinking about and things that have come across my mind over the past several years. So, food for thought maybe. Should we be managing weight as much as we do? Should we trust our horses more? Don't know. You think about how you do. I'm more than happy to answer questions about what I do, but that's just a little bit of insight. I'm trusting my horses to manage themselves, and I just make sure there's enough hay going around. Anyway, I think that's me today. I've waffled on for the past 20 minutes. So if you're new here, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below whether you've enjoyed the topic, whether there's anything that you want to say, anything you want to agree with, disagree with, let me know. There's a Facebook page, so go check us out over there where there's always loads more information. There's a Facebook group where we have a nice little community going, have a nice little chat, ask any questions you like and just, join us over there. There's a YouTube channel where there's plenty of videos giving you information about plants, herbs, how we manage our land, how we integrate wildlife into managing our land and doing things for us rather than us over controlling the land. There is also Instagram, so check us out over there where there's virtually daily updates on the herd. And I will see you again soon. Okay, thanks guys, bye!